Welcome to Bird Banter with Boreal Bruce.
Episode 4.
The Hilliardton Marsh is alive with birdsong, and any moment the warm winds of spring will remove the shield of ice that has been stopping waterfowl from reclaiming the wetland. After months of pretty much knowing what net checks will reveal, our first warblers have been met with excitement and cameras waiting to record and celebrate their arrival. The first warbler of the spring was a western palm warbler, which was taken out of the net and banded by Chrissy Barton, who is a migrant herself from Virginia. The marsh provides more than just habitat, it is a nexus, a meeting place of the spectacle of the migration and those who try to learn and understand its mysteries. The Hilliardton Marsh banding station and the assembled crew is ready for the wave to arrive. Welcome to another podcast of Bird Banter with Boreal Bruce. Today we're going to be looking at a number of different aspects of birding at the Hilliardton Marsh banding station. We're going to start with a bird report of migrants that have recently arrived. We're going to be looking at some banding highlights. We're going to be talking about how photo period moves the migration. We're going to be having a chat with Chrissy Barton, one of our volunteers from Virginia, and Jessica Bailey, a volunteer who's from Ajax, Ontario. We're going to have a brief chat about the DU dinner, which the Marsh provided drinks for all the patrons coming to the bar as a fundraiser for the Marsh. We're going to be talking about our Raise the Roost campaign, an effort to get housing for volunteers. We're going to be talking about the tree swallow box cleanout that happened as recently as today. And we're also going to be encouraging visitors to come out to the marsh starting actually right now. So I wanted to put a shout out to let everybody know that the marsh is open from 8 to 11:30 daily. So if there's anybody that would like to come out to see a banding station in operation or just get a chance to see birds up close, just wanted to make sure everybody knew that we are open from 8 to 11:30 daily. We are going to be open this Sunday, particularly for Mother's Day. So what a finer treat for Mom than to bring her out and have a picture with her, potentially holding maybe a pileated woodpecker. You never know. So or maybe one of the warblers of sparrows that we're seeing at the marsh. So on our website, it says that we are open Monday to Saturday, but this Sunday for Mom's Day, bring your mom out and make her happy. So we'll hope to see you out at the Hilliardton Marsh. That takes us to the bird report. The recent migrants that have arrived on May 3rd, we saw barn swallows, swamp sparrows, and lesser yellowlegs arrive in the area. May 4th saw our first redhead duck appear, followed also by a brown thrasher, a pie-billed grebe, and a solitary sandpiper. On May 5th, an American bittern was seen at the Hilliardton Marsh by a number of different observers. May 7th was a eastern kingbird and blue-headed vireo that were spotted at the North Cobalt Sewage Lagoon. And on May 8th at the Kearns Public School, the students and staff were dazzled by a rose-breasted grosbeak that appeared. That ends the report for the period up to May the 8th. So we're going to talk briefly about how photo period moves the migration. So a lot of people have been talking to me about how with all the snow and all of the ice that and all of the inclement and bad weather we've had, how the migration has been held up. And we were talking on our last episode about how a lot of the migrants are behind up to 19 days behind their average arrival dates. But one of the things that we're anticipating is that a lot of the birds that migrate from Central and South America, what triggers the migration is the length of daylight. And the fancy term for that is photoperiod. So we are anticipating that the arrival of a lot of the warblers and vireos and flycatchers that over winter in Central and South America will be arriving on average dates. And indeed, as we mentioned, we've already seen the first warblers arriving. Today, on May the 8th, we were able to catch 2 western palm warblers and a yellow rump warbler, which are pretty much arriving on average. So we're anticipating that the rest of the warblers and those neotropical migrants will be arriving right on time. And the banding crew at the Hilliardton Marsh are ready. The training has been going really well. So all of the work that crew has been doing on learning how to take birds out of the net, the timing is perfect because their skills are getting up to where they need to be, and the migrants are just about to arrive. One of the things that we've been experiencing at the marsh this spring is that with all of the ice and the heavy snow load that we had, that we haven't been able to get up all of the nets. So we're not using our standard protocol as of yet because we haven't been able to get the nets up. So we're anticipating perhaps by the 16th that we'll have all the nets up, which will pretty much be perfect because that's when we're going to see the bulk of the warblers arriving. So stay tuned for more information about when we can get those nets up. But there's just right now, there's on some of the net lanes, there's just way too much water to be able to get the nets up, and even to get access to the nets. Some of the boardwalks that we're using are about 3 feet underwater, and it's just it's neither safe for humans or the birds to be trying to net them in those areas under those conditions. So as soon as the water levels drop, then we'll have access to those nets, and then we'll be fully operational and using our standard protocol. So today in studio, we have Chrissy Barton, who is all the way from Virginia. So we're going to talk for a moment in Chrissy. And the first question I have for Chrissy is a little bit about what got her interested in birds and what brought her to the Hilliardton Marsh.
So I was really interested in just studying wildlife in general and wildlife research when I finished my undergrad at Virginia Tech, and I started volunteering for a study of bird-to-window collisions, and I walked around looking for dead birds. And when I did this job, it started to make me pay more attention to birds, because I hadn't really done that in the past. And I was able to get a job doing that in Oklahoma and continue pursuing it, and that's where I really started to become a birder and enjoyed birding more as a result of that. And I continued to do some other research things related to birds, and was introduced to bird banding through these jobs, and was hoping for an opportunity to continue doing that and become more proficient at it. So that's how I decided to look for something like this, where I could come and get more hands-on experience getting birds out of nets and putting bands on and learning about migration and bird movement in general.
Awesome. So let's go back to your earlier thoughts on your work with window collisions and birds. That sounds really interesting. So what could you expand a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so bird collisions with windows are one of the major sources of human-related causes of bird death. So hundreds of millions of birds are estimated to be killed by colliding with windows, which is way more than something like wind turbines, which is what you often hear about. But it's a major issue that needs to be studied in greater detail. And so the research that I did was looking at different factors relating to collisions, and I was fortunate to be able to develop my own sort of side study when I was a technician at this job, and I looked at bus shelters, birds colliding with these bus shelters, because we kept on finding dead birds at the shelters. And so I did this little study where I looked at surrounding landscape factors and glass area and what might be correlating with bird collisions, and we found that the amount of glass on shelters caused more collisions, or correlated with more collisions, as did the amount of lawn area, so the amount of grass surrounding the shelters. So this is also really related to just windows at buildings in general. Obviously, if you have a big window where the glass is just clear and open, a bird is going to have a hard time seeing that and is going to probably just fly into it and may die as a result of that. So it's really a visibility thing. If there's some way that people can break up the clear image of the glass of their window, then they may be able to reduce collisions. And there's a lot of products on the market to help with that. Although often just closing the blinds in front of a big window can make a big difference in helping birds see where they're flying, and also prevent reflection, because reflecting vegetation can lead to more collisions as well.
Right on. It's interesting as you're talking about that. I was just thinking that it occurred to me that, like, why is it that bus shelters even need to be glass? I guess maybe that's maybe people feel safer seeing what's coming around them, but certainly that glass could be broken up. And I'm not sure if it's just an aesthetic thing that people think that shelters look nicer than glass, but it never would have occurred to me that that glass would be an issue. But of course it would be. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that definitely it's a combination of an aesthetic thing and like a safety thing as well. But there's plenty of ways that can be changed by putting applications on the glass at shelters. And it's kind of interesting because the bus shelters themselves can be used as a model to study these deterrents or solutions for collisions, because most of the products that are out there available for purchase to put on your windows at home haven't been rigorously tested in the field. And so it's difficult to apply them on a larger scale with windows, at a building that may have 2 or 3 stories, and it takes a lot of manpower to be able to apply them in different locations, especially at the scale of a study you would need in order to have a large enough sample size to draw conclusions from it. But bus shelters are small and they're not very big, so it would be interesting to do some kind of study testing those solutions there. So I see a lot of potential in that area, even though bus shelters are just one small aspect of the whole collision research. They have some larger applications too. So it's kind of interesting.
We were just chatting a bit before we started with the podcast, is that that you were saying that a lot of attention is on those big high rises where there's lots of lights and you have big killing events. But as you're saying, that these smaller events are what really add up to devastating numbers for birds.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that a lot of people get 1 or 2 buildings or 1 or 2 birds colliding with their building a year and they don't think much of it. But studies have shown that the majority of collisions are occurring over these cumulative incidents where long-term birds collide with rural residences or 1-story buildings, and they add up. And you often just hear about the larger events, and those are significant as well. But I think that it's an issue that we can all make a difference in if we at our own buildings can try to, take measures to reduce collisions where we are, and then spread the word to others so that we start to make change at a smaller scale and let it spread.
One last question about because I want to get back to asking you some more bird questions, but this is excellent stuff. Is there a website or a resource that you would direct people to? Because I think people hearing this would realize that they can do something on an individual level and reduce the collisions around their own home. So what would you suggest? Where would people go?
Go to the American Bird Conservancy's website. I think it's abcbirds.com. I'm not sure. You can look that up. But they have an excellent guide for reducing collisions with a list of the products that are tested and some recommendations for what you can do. And they also have a lot of general information about collisions and about factors affecting it and how you can work to reduce it overall.
Awesome. Sounds great. So while we have you here at the Marsh, you're going to be here for about a month. And just a couple of questions to hand back to you is, first of all, what is it like sleeping in a tent when it's below freezing? And the other question is there a particular bird that you're hoping that you might get a chance to band while you're at the marsh?
It's very cold sleeping in a tent. I find that Canada is a very cold place, but I think that it's really okay because you get to hear all the night sounds of living in this boreal forest area. It's so magnificent. I really enjoy that. So it balances out. It's cold, but you get the experience of being outdoors overnight and seeing the stars and even the northern lights before you're going into your tent. It kind of makes up for the freezing cold that you have to deal with. And as for the bird, there's so many birds that I'm excited to see and have in the hand here, especially all kinds of warblers, I would say. The Wilson's warbler is what I'm looking forward to. Just all the warblers, really. I was hoping to get a loggerhead strike, or a northern strike, but I think those are gone. So, I'm just excited to see what we'll get overall.
Awesome. And we do at our banding station over the years, we've been able to band 23 different species of warblers. So, and I can pretty much guarantee you're going to get a chance to handle lots of Wilson's warblers. So that'll be something to look forward to. So thanks very much to Chrissy Barton. And Chrissy's also been engaged in some red-headed woodpecker research, and we may get her back while we have her here to explain a bit more about that research and how things are progressing at the marsh. So our other guest in studio today is Jessica Bailey, who hails from Ajax. And I'm going to ask Jess the same question that I asked Chrissy, and that is essentially how you became interested in birds and how is it that you ended up coming to the Hilliardton Marsh?
Well, I had some pretty great high school teachers in grade 10 to grade 12. They started a bird watching club, which really got me interested. I hadn't really ever thought about it before until then. The first time we ever went birding, I saw a great horned owl, and after that I was just hooked. Yeah. And then as I took more environmental courses in high school, I got more into ecology and decided to pursue a degree at University of Toronto doing ecology and evolutionary bio.
Right on. And how is it that you discovered the marsh, and how is it that you ended up here?
Oh, I took a visit with the University of Toronto ornithological group at UTSC in the Scarborough campus. And we went to the ROM, and they took us backstage where we met Mark Peck, and he told us about bird banding, and I just got really interested about that. And he told us about more northern places and I've only ever birded in southern Ontario, so I thought this would be a great opportunity. And I found the advertisement for Hilliardton Marsh, and it just sounded amazing.
Right on. And we're delighted to have you here. And again, as I was asking Chrissy, what are there a few species that you're hoping to encounter while you're at the marsh?
There's been a pileated woodpecker that I hear every morning, and I hear it every morning, and I know it's laughing because I wanna catch it really badly and hold it, and I'm hoping to get a chance to band that because that would be really cool. But I'm also hoping for a Canada warbler or maybe a kingfisher too. That'd be cool.
Fantastic. So. I love the pileated idea but I should warn you, there was one time that we managed to, well, it's not really a warning, but it may happen that there's pileated are normally in low numbers, and we have banded a few of them. So it may happen that we end up getting a recap, so you may not get a chance. You may not get a chance to band it, but and holding it can be painful. Because you've seen what they can do to trees, so you can imagine what they would do to the top of your hand while you're holding them. So, and the Canada warbler is Ontario species at risk, and we usually catch 8 to 12 on average. So I think you could anticipate that we'll be able to get a chance for Canada warblers, and I've been impressed with. Jess came to us with zero net experience, and you've been progressing really nicely, and you're learning to extract birds, which is not an easy task. And you've been at it for a little over a week, and it's impressive how quickly you've been learning. So So I think as things progress, that you'll definitely have the skills to be able to handle that pileated, and I'm happy to let you take it out and save my own fingers from from the bill of a pileated. So welcome to the Marsh. We're excited to have you, and you were saying something about possibly that you're going to be you have a research project that might be coming up in fourth year at U of T.
Well, I'm hoping to do a thesis. I've been looking at maybe doing different things in ecology. I'm not really made up my mind yet.
Awesome. So if there's a way that that some of your ideas might tie into the research that we're doing at the Marsh, we'd be happy to help you out with that. So that would be, and who knows, you might stumble upon something while you're here. It might be Canada warblers, maybe that pileated, but you never know. So that would be, we're happy to help out, and we'll be watching your future unfold with great interest. So that pretty much wraps up the crew. So our other crew members that you've heard in past podcasts are Nick Aliotto and Francis Whalen, who are from, Nick is from Sunderland, Francis is from Michigan, just outside of Kalamazoo, and Mo Fahmy, who hails all the way from Egypt, who you heard on last week's podcast. So moving along, thanks very much, ladies. That was awesome, and we'll be hopefully getting you in on a future podcast to hear some more. So the other night, the Hilliardton Marsh was fortunate to once again be able to run the bar at the Ducks Unlimited fundraising dinner, and it's an opportunity for us to raise a few dollars towards our goals at the Hilliardton Marsh. And it was a extremely well-attended event, as it always is. Ducks Unlimited always puts on a great show. They had about 280 people that showed up, and people were doing buying lots of silent auction and live auction items, and the Marsh was able to quake the thirst of those thirsty patrons that were there. One of the things that was a little different this year was we were supported by Luke Johnson and his Whiskey Jack Brewery enterprise, and if folks have not had a chance to try some of his fantastic brew, Whiskey Jack beer is fantastic. It's nice. It's all locally brewed, and I would encourage anybody to try that out. And we were very appreciative that Luke gave the proceeds of all of the Whiskey Jack sales back to the Marsh. So that's a big shout out to you, Luke, and thanks very much for that support. And thanks to Ducks Unlimited for helping us out. One thing that I would like to point out, a very subtle distinction that sometimes people don't quite appreciate, is that the Hilliardton Marsh Research and Education Center is totally independent of Ducks Unlimited. So oftentimes people think that when they go to a Ducks Unlimited dinner, that they're the fundraising of Ducks Unlimited helps out the Hilliardton Marsh Research and Education Center. But as mentioned, we are independent. The money that's raised at Ducks Unlimited dinners goes to DU Corporate, which is responsible for creating wetlands like the Hilliardton Marsh. So back in 1993, when the marsh was created, it cost $1.5 million, which was totally raised by Ducks Unlimited. So this is in no way any kind of slight towards Ducks Unlimited. I just thought it was worth people understanding that we are not funded by Ducks Unlimited, but indeed the marsh, as mentioned, was created by DU. So that was just a distinction I wanted to make. So on the topic of raising money, we're going to talk about our Raise the Roost campaign. So we are very close to our immediate goal of raising $10,000, which will be matched by the Gosling Foundation. We're about $1,000 away. So if there's anyone out there listening that would like to contribute $1,000 to get us to our goal, or if we had 10 people that would like to contribute 100, then that would get us all the closer to purchasing a trailer so that we could house our volunteers in absolute trailer luxury. So that will get them out of the cold, off the ground, and will allow us to get even more researchers to the marsh to help in our endeavors in our research at the marsh. So if you need more information about that, visit our website, www.thehilliardtonmarsh.com. Recently, our crew has been out to a number of different locations to clean out the tree swallow boxes. And normally we do that on Earth Day, which is April 22nd, but there was so much snow that we couldn't get to the boxes, and the tree swallows have arrived. As volunteers were cleaning out the boxes, the tree swallows were making their presence known and letting us know that the boxes should have been cleaned out by now. The boxes have to be cleaned out every year because the nests need to be removed, and the females every year will build a new nest. So if boxes are left uncleaned, they could potentially have 3 seasons that they could build nests before the nest gets to the level of the hole, and then they wouldn't be able to nest in the boxes any longer. So we were out the last 2 days. We were joined by the Quinton family at the marsh, who arrived with some 4-wheelers and scooted around to clean out the 80 boxes that are around the Hilliardton Marsh proper. We also have boxes, about 80 boxes along Highway 569 that we were able to clean out today. And yesterday, we did our tour of the sewage lagoons. So we did the old North Cobalt Sewage Lagoon. We did the new North Cobalt Sewage Lagoon, and we cleaned out the boxes at the Niliskard Sewage Lagoon. And we noticed that there was a lot of success. There was a lot of nests that we were able to clean out. So that's a good sign. And it's always a very satisfying feeling having nest boxes that are cleaned out, because we know that the tree swallows are dependent on cavities to nest in. And I'm not sure. I always feel fantastic when the boxes are all cleaned out, knowing that that we are helping a species that seems to be needing more and more help these days, as their numbers are on a sharp decline, as are all aerial insectivores. And I would like to turn to our banding highlights. This information is just in. Compliments of Nick and Mo just got this to me. So we've had a very successful start to the banding season. So we are now up to 29 species and 449 individual birds. Our number one species right now, we've banded 179 American tree sparrows, 124 red-winged blackbirds, which is an impressive number for this early in the spring. We've had 33 common grackles, 7 white-throated sparrows, 7 ruby-crowned kinglets, which are just beginning, and we managed to catch 8 rusty blackbirds, which are an Ontario species at risk. We had a flock of up to perhaps 30 to 40 rusties that were hanging around. So to get 8 rusty blackbirds was an impressive total for the spring. And one bird that really dazzled us the other day was we managed to catch a common grackle that was banded as an after second year bird back in 2008, which would make that bird at least 12 years old. So it could potentially be older than that. And I was a little bit surprised to discover that the longevity record, which is the time between when the bird was first banded and when it is retrapped, the longevity record for a common grackle is a whopping 23 years. So often people are asking me how long birds live. And a lot of the birds, like warblers and some of the smaller birds, will live potentially about 6 years. But wow, grackles live to be 23. So that was quite a shock. So as mentioned, we just have started with the warblers with 2 western palms today and our first yellow rump warbler. So when we come back to you in a week with our next podcast, we should be talking about a lot of different species that have showed up at the Hilliardton Marsh. So, in closing, once again, I would like to thank Chrissy and Jess for coming in today. And I'd like to once again thanks the technical wizardry of Ben McPherson for bringing this to your ears. The Hilliardton Marsh is a membership organization. Your contributions to our organization allow us to conduct our research and reach you through this podcast, and hopefully one day provide warm, dry accommodations for our volunteers. We will be back next week celebrating the migration. Until then, bird is the word.